Are the vast majority of parents paranoid, overprotective at best, and authoritarian control freaks at worst, as one self-professed survivor of narcissistic abuse posted? Or are permissive parents ruining America, as some claim? In reality, both are partially right and partially wrong. Complaints about disobedient children have been recorded since the earliest days of mankind. Remember Cain in Genesis 4? So they aren't unique to now, nor are complaints about overly permissive parents. But even though there are many other factors involved in our current cultural decline, overly permissive parents have helped hasten the decline. And it's a shame because it not only harms the child, it has hurt our society as well. Nowhere has that harm been more observable than in the religious world. Not only has little Johnny not been told no when asking for a toy, he's also seldom told no when wanting to ignore Bible study and the necessity of listening to God. Even serious religious-minded parents who diligently help their children with their schoolwork and insist on obedient behavior in school will seldom, if ever, get on to little Johnny for not doing his Bible class lesson or not listening to his Bible class teacher. When honoring God and doing his will are not required, it leads to a spiritual collapse, a collapse that is rapidly escalating before our very eyes. Of course, concern about this collapse isn't new. One brother expressed his concerns about it decades ago in Plain Talk magazine, all the way back in July of 1977. The Permissive Trend by Dan Shipley. Trends can be troublesome things. They are real enough to be sure, but often hard to grasp and identify. How do you corral and brand a tendency? By their very nature, trends are not ends, but are intermediaries that lead to ends. They are something like whiskers are to beards. As some sage has noted, a whisker is not a beard. Even several whiskers are not a beard. Now anyone can tell the difference between a whisker and a beard, but who can say just how many whiskers make a beard? Though not so tangible or predictable, little trends, like whiskers, slowly grow into something. Just what they will grow into is not always obvious, and not always good, and most certainly not always easy to deal with. A big reason why trends are so troublesome is that most who go along with them cannot view them objectively. Nothing blinds like involvement. None of us like to think that what we have sanctioned may be wrong or may even lead to wrong. The trouble is, many unthinkingly jump on the trend wagon without really considering where it may take them. And once aboard, few are likely to admit they made a mistake by getting on and going along. Take the trend toward permissiveness in our own generation, for example. Almost everyone will acknowledge it, yet who will claim to have been under its influence? From the family unit all the way to the highest echelons of government, we have seen the effects of such a trend. Public conduct and conversation that would have been considered shameful in another generation can scarcely find a blush in ours. What is happening to us? Even if we acknowledge the beard of permissiveness, who cares? Who wants to shave it off? Seemingly not many. But the worst tragedy would be if God's people didn't care. Trends that affect the nation will be felt in the church. We cannot deny the permissiveness among us. It can be seen in the willingness of many churches to go along with most everything and seldom, if ever, take a stand against anything. Only smooth and inoffensive preaching will be tolerated. Isaiah 30 verse 10 and 2 Timothy 4 verses 3 and 4. The separate and distinctive nature of God's people is being diluted, polluted may be better, with worldliness. Many among the set-apart people are not. Not when they revert to living like the world, not when the church is allowed to become a refuge for the ungodly. Discipline is practically unheard of. What is happening to us? Where are those who once stood uncompromisingly for God's truth? Is it really better for us to go along in order to get along? Just how bad would things have to get before it would be proper to speak out? For those who will listen, God is saying, already it is time for you to awake out of sleep. Romans 13, verse 11. Trends involve much time and many people. It is not likely that the non-conforming few will have the time or the influence to reverse the permissive trend that has crept in among God's people. But we cannot remain in passive silence. We cannot fellowship the works of darkness. Wake up, look into the mirror, see whiskers? Beard, time to shave. Morning Minutes in the Bible on An American Missionary has been looking at the bright promise of renewed life in Isaiah 4, verses 2 through 6, but must turn from the promised hope to point out the dismal present of sin that would lead to the dead stump from which new life and abundance would spring. The trend had become an avalanche of sin, leading to Judah and Jerusalem's eventual fall. Included in that trend were permissive parents who could not be bothered with teaching their children to honor God and obey His will. Eventually, God had to wash and purge the nation. Let us live like it's not too late to stop the permissive trend, but it must begin with our own hearts and homes before we can impact the church. Let's you and me start a new trend of loving obedience to God. Thank you for watching today's Throwback Thursday edition of Morning Minutes in the Bible on An American Missionary. Until next time, this is James from McClenny hoping you have a great day.